Hi, everybody. My name is Judy Mark. I want to welcome you to this press event. I am the president of Disability Voices United. We are an advocacy organization directed by and for people with disabilities and their families. I am a person with disabilities, and I also have a 28-year-old son with autism who relies completely on Medicaid for his health care and the round-the-clock services he requires. This Saturday, July 26th, our country will commemorate the 35th anniversary of the landmark civil rights law, the Americans with Disabilities Act. But this Disability Pride Month, we will not be celebrating. Instead, people with disabilities fear this year's milestone is more like a meltdown for disability rights. People with disabilities are now facing a full-scale assault with our government stripping away our essential services, undermining our inclusion, and sending a chilling message. Disabled people's hard-won rights are not disposable, are being disposed of. We feel betrayed by a country that promised to support us, to be included, and promised to protect us from discrimination in schools, at work, and in the community. But those promises are being broken. When the Congress voted to slash $1 trillion in Medicaid funding a few weeks ago, they weren't just cutting services, they were cutting our lives short. And we are here to say that we are not disposable. Our rights are not negotiable, and we will not allow our government leaders to publicly celebrate the ADA while simultaneously setting it on fire. I am joined today with an amazing group of actors, most of whom are proud members of the disability community and others who are parents of people with disabilities. First, we are going to hear from Tal Anderson. Tal is a storyteller and an advocate for change. As an autistic, multi-hyphenate actor, she uses her voice and platform to advocate for disability rights, inclusion, and authentic representation in Hollywood. She is best known for her work in the Netflix series Atypical as Sid and as Becca King in the new Max series The Pit. While not acting, Tal flexes her creative muscles through filmmaking, producing and editing a variety of independent short and feature-length films and exhibition videos for the Smithsonian Institute. Go ahead, Tal.
Hello, I appreciate the chance to speak to you today. The fight for inclusion and acceptance has been a constant in my life. As a child, my parents accessed public resources both for me directly and as an education and advocacy for themselves. Without those early interventions and the support of so many, I wouldn't be who I am today or have the access or platform to fight for awareness and to hope for change. I'm thankful because the fight has never been as critical as it is right now. As an autistic child, I experienced the isolation and prejudice that comes with being labeled as different, which made me feel like a lesser person. I know now that those kids and parents behave this way because different scares people. And that fear is fueled by misinformation, stereotypes, and ignorance. As a child, I just wanted friends and acceptance like everyone else. But as an adult, the stakes for myself and the disability community at large are much higher. In my personal life, I fight for acceptance and for people to feel confident to live their lives as their true selves. Unfortunately, though, the fear of things that are different still exists. And in fact, the flames of that fear are being fanned by the federal government. Current misinformation and talk of disability surveillance in our country not only diminishes quality of life, but also puts all disabled people's well-being in danger. Policies by the federal government are increasing ableism and strengthening the stigma of having a difference against approximately 70 million disabled adult Americans. That's a lot of Americans who are being targeted just for their differences, and doesn't even include children. The defunding, restructuring, and elimination of resources that keep us alive and productive is discrimination at the highest level. In my work, I advocate for authentic representation on screen because it empowers disabled people to live their genuine lives with confidence, but also because it's important to fight against harmful stereotypes. I believe that the media is the most powerful way to get that message across. But it's not enough to stop it. To stop it, we need to work together to call out the dangers of bad policies and trends in our government and remind people that a disability or a difference is not something to fear. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Tal. That was incredible. Next, I'm honored to introduce Joe Mantegna. Joe is a well-known actor, producer, and director. You know him as the longtime star of Criminal Minds and as an award-winning actor in film and on Broadway. Joe is also the parent of a child with disabilities for the past 38 years. Go ahead, Joe.
Yes, thank you. First of all, thank you for giving me a voice today. Let me just say this. 38 years ago, my daughter, her first child, Mia, was born and diagnosed with autism. And of course, when we got that word, it's that you get that feeling, you know, your heart goes into your stomach. And then I looked at my wife, and of course, a second later, and God bless her because she has that kind of wherewithal, I knew the next instant was, now what are we going to do? What do we take it from here? And it's been that journey, of course, for the last 38 years. But I will say this. I come from a background of, you know, I grew up in Chicago. My father was disabled for most of his life. My mother wrapped packages at Sears Roebuck. I did not come from a privileged kind of a background, and it's fine. I mean, everybody's got their story. That's I'm not here to talk about that. But what I am here to talk about is things changed for me. Things got pretty good, and it got pretty good to the point that if I having a child with special needs, I am in a position that I can take care of it. If I had to solely be dependent on myself and my immediate family, me, my wife, and my two daughters, I could make it. And I feel so blessed and very fortunate because of that things worked out that way. But if you take the people in charge, our government, our Congress, people who don't have to worry about health care, people whose health care is already kind of automatically, you know, in place for them. And God bless them for that. Okay, they've achieved it. They were voted in. They're part of our government. But how dare you use the power that you have to deny what is it should be an alienable right to the citizens of this country? You know, Lincoln, to paraphrase Lincoln, what he said best, you know, back then about, you know, we as a people have to be responsible for our veterans, because if you don't, in a nutshell, if you don't take care of those who have, you know, taken care of us throughout history, what kind of a country are we? What kind of a people are we? And it's the same way with our citizens who have these disabilities. And I'm talking about the people who aren't in a financial position, who aren't members of Congress, who aren't senators, who aren't members of the House of Representatives, who aren't president, vice president, go down the line of people whose care is already being guaranteed for them. And yet these are the same people who have the ability to judge and say, well, let's just cut this and let's cut that. And let's cut this, you know, we don't necessarily need this kind of funding. What kind of a country are we? I mean, especially lately, we hear on the news how we are the greatest country in the world. We're the most powerful country in the world. We are the pride of the universe. And and I would tend to agree with most of those kinds of statements. But the only way we can prove it is to back it up. And if you're not taking care of those most in need and most who don't have the ability to just in terms of basic health care to be able to take care of themselves, then really how great and wonderful a country are we? So that's all I got to say. I'm not here to complain for myself. I'm here to advocate for all of those people who don't have that voice. And so you the people who have the ability to make change, make that change. Be proud. Be able to go to sleep at night knowing that you've done the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joe. Really well said. Our next speaker is Michael Patrick Thornton. Michael is an actor, writer, improviser, and director with a career stretching from Chicago's storefront theater to Hollywood and Broadway. Michael is also an incomplete quadriplegic who uses a wheelchair. Go ahead, Michael.
Thank you. I'd like to zero in on the $1 trillion decapitation to Medicaid that Republicans just passed, which will throw about 12 million of our fellow Americans off their insurance, but somehow also make America great again. When I was recovering from my spinal strokes, I had the good fortune of already being in Chicago, where the Rehabilitation Institute of Chicago was located. They picked a good name for it. Today, it's called the Shirley Ryan Ability Lab, and it continues to be the #1 rehab hospital in the world for spinal cord injuries and stroke recovery. Now, I know this because I'm an inpatient and outpatient graduate of Shirley Ryan, and in full disclosure, these days, happily serve on their board. Just to note, I'm the worst board member ever. I give no money and just show up once a year and eat all the cheese. But without the care that I got in those precious early days after my spinal strokes, most of which was paid for by Medicaid, I would not have learned how to speak again, how to move again, or rebuild a life where I could dare to follow my dreams again. So the inpatients at Shirley Ryan and at many spinal cord and stroke rehab facilities in the country, the inpatients run the gambit from very wealthy folks with private insurance to folks who rely on Medicaid. And what fills me with absolute dread is that with this cowardly back alley knifing of healthcare, people won't have the same access to critical technology and approaches that can on-ramp and accelerate their rehab in a way that fills people with a sense of hope and purpose during those extremely vulnerable early days when life as you knew it is obliterated and there seems to be no way out and no way forward. These ghoulish cuts to the health of our Commonwealth will create an absolute reaping across our most vulnerable communities. And you don't have to squint too hard to see that the ideology underneath it, all but spelled out by the worm-brained Secretary of Death, RFK Jr., essentially begin to play footsie with some sort of eugenics. I would normally conclude by saying every Republican who voted for this bill should be ashamed, but shame left the building a long time ago. So happy 8035 and happy Disability Pride Month. This will not be one of those anniversaries, of course, where we pop the champagne. This will be one where we have to roll up our sleeves, crack our knuckles, and fight. It's time to remind Americans everywhere that we are the inheritance of a profound, profound legacy born from defining moments in disabled justice history. The 504 protest sit-ins, the Capitol crawl, and this kind of inhumanity has no place in America, and hopefully will not stay for long. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Michael. I completely agree with everything you said. Next, we will hear from Kevin Iannucci and his mom, Anne. Kevin was born with Down syndrome. At an early age, he knew he wanted to be an actor. Kevin is an advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion, not only in TV and film, but everywhere. Go ahead, Kevin and Anne.
Hi, thank you for having us. 31 years ago, Kevin was born, and we had no idea he had Downs until he was born. My first thought was, how long is he going to live? And once I found out they could live much longer now, then I was, okay, so what's going to happen? Is he going to ever read? Is he going to ever write? Will he play football? And those are the things I used to think about at night when I was rocking this little baby. But he has definitely proven that when you are given the opportunity, you can achieve whatever you want. And we're here because they're making cuts to education and to Medicaid, and they have both helped Kevin. And he has a little something written he's going to read for you.
Yep. So my name is Kevin, actor. I'm an advocate and also a creator on social media. So I attended public schools, like you said, here in North Carolina. Started at 3 years old. I graduated in 2013 with a diploma. I was
In a self-contained.
in a self-contained class until middle school. Then I started regular education classes with resource help. My special education teachers helped me prepare for becoming an actor. Diversity, equity, and inclusion in movies and TV are important because it reflects real life.
So we're just really upset with what is going on with our government, just targeting people that need help. And right now he is on Medicaid, Medicare. He gets what's called he gets assistance through the state, but he also is very capable of working. And we're fortunate because like Joe, I think we could make it. I mean, I might have to work till I'm 100, but there are a lot of people in North Carolina that, one income family, and it's really sad that they're trying to take stuff away from us. But thank you all again.
Thank you so much, Anne, and thank you, Kevin. That was great. We will now hear from Danielle Perez. Danielle is a comedian, actor, and writer. Funny, feminist, and fierce, this queer, disabled Afro-Latina doesn't hold back. Her personal and biting comedy has garnered praise from the Los Angeles Times, and her voice and acting talents have been featured in Sony Picture Studios' Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and Netflix's The Night Agent, and HBO's Curb Your Enthusiasm. Thank you for being here, Danielle.
Thank you for having me. I am disabled. I lost my feet in an accident in San Francisco when I was 20 years old. And frankly, most people with disabilities acquire them over time. Only 20% of people are actually born with their disabilities. We're the largest minority group that any person can become a part of at any time. When I became disabled, it was the stigma that I'll never have a job, I'll never get married, I'll never have a full life. I'm on TV, okay? I live a great life. But these cuts from the big bad bill, $1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid, it's sick, it's disgusting, and it's eugenics. It's an attempt to erase disabled people who have always been here, who are always present, who just want to live full lives. It's not lost on me that on the 35th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, instead of celebrating, we are literally having a press conference to display our humanity. Right now, a movie is being made about the 504 protests led by Judy Heumann. So you want our inspirational stories, you want to hear about us overcoming while actively keeping us from participating in society. Okay, what's happening now is limiting access to healthcare, adaptive devices, occupational therapy, education, public transportation. These are all things that lead to the misinformation that we will only ever be a burden to society. Disability rights are for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. Incredible. Next, I am pleased to introduce Gary Cole. Gary is an actor known for his many television roles in Midnight Caller, The West Wing, The Good Wife, Veep, and NCIS. Gary is also the parent of a child who was diagnosed with autism at 18 months old. Special education and services have been critical for Gary's son. And now, take it away, Gary.
Well, here's what I know. My daughter was diagnosed with autism at 18 months old. She's now 32. She is employed, drives herself to and from work, lives on her own, has compassion for others, pursues interests she is passionate about, and maybe most importantly, has friends. And without the existence of the ADA and support from Regional Center, I couldn't guarantee that any of those things would have been possible. Support from Regional Center was critical to her education and, as a byproduct, her emotional development. One thing that is a guarantee, in the future, there will be no shortage of children diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. And all I can say as a parent is I hope that the next generation of special needs kids will be fortunate enough to have the same help and support that my daughter had access to. Dealing with autism was an all-consuming challenge for our family, even with all the support of many dedicated teachers and therapists made possible through programs like Regional Center. Without them, without accommodations and inclusions, families in the future dealing with the challenge of autism or any special need will have a much tougher road to travel. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carrie. And I apologize saying it was your son. It is your daughter who has autism. I apologize for that.
No problem.
Our next speaker, I'm so honored to introduce Autumn Best, an actor and disability advocate who lives with a limb difference. She most recently appeared in Anna Kendrick's directorial debut, Woman of the Hour, on Netflix, and she has also been on 4400 on CW. Autumn uses her platform to champion authentic disability representation in film and television. Go ahead, Autumn.
Hi. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I want to talk a little bit about language today. Um, I spent most of my life avoiding the word disabled, and a lot of that was definitely due to my parents' perception of the word. Thinking they were doing me a favor as a kid. Adults in my life always told me that I wasn't disabled, just special or different, and I could do, anything a normal kid could do. I played the violin, I performed in school musicals, I taught myself how to type. Uh, I liked to think of myself as like immune to my own disability, which only led to years of internalized pain and extremely private struggling. And for me, identifying as disabled sprouted from the communities I was forming online when I started acting and posting YouTube videos in high school, when people started to leave comments about my hand, and I realized that I couldn't ignore this enormous part of myself. And I started to meet other artists and athletes and students who also had limb differences who proudly identified with the word disabled. And my parents tried to stop me at first. They were really shocked that I would choose to label myself that way after they had worked so hard to teach me to persevere despite my hand and my disability. I had to really take on the responsibility of educating myself and them on the importance of disability pride. And thankfully, we've come a long, long way as a family. As disability pride, as I see it, is the idea that being disabled is not inherently bad or scary, and is instead a rich heritage of hard work and creativity, and above all, demanding your rights and your right to life, liberty, and happiness. And claiming disability as an identity has allowed me to better advocate for myself at work, on television and film sets, and in script development and things like that. And I am really angry at this current administration for everything that we've already talked about, and especially at Robert F. Kennedy, the US Secretary of Health and Human Services, who has said all sorts of false and horrific things about autistic people. He has been quoted saying they'll never pay taxes, they'll never hold a job, they'll never play baseball, they'll never write a poem, they'll never go out on a date. And those are disgusting lies. And when able-bodied people, especially powerful people like this man, use fear-mongering language to tear down disabled people, it becomes even harder for people to seek diagnosis and demand support and find community. And people like him are the reason why my parents were so hesitant to use the correct language for my disability, because stigma is a powerful weapon. And Robert F. Kennedy is attempting to shame people into silence and isolation. Autism is not a dirty word, just like disability is not a dirty word. Disabled people are everybody's equals, whether it makes you uncomfortable or not, and we deserve to seek diagnosis without fear. We deserve to find community with each other, and we deserve to be treated like the valuable members of society that we so clearly are. And I just want to thank Judy again for the opportunity and for including me in this, because it means a lot.
Thank you so much, Autumn. That was incredible. Incredible. Our final speaker is Kobe Bird, a 23-year-old actor with autism who advocates for himself and others like him to be authentically cast, portrayed, and seen for who he is, not his diagnosis. Kobe was a series regular on Netflix Lock and Key, and was most recently seen on HBO Max's The Pit. Go ahead, Kobe.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. The thing I really wanted to talk about is for people with disabilities, needs are not negotiable. Support isn't a bonus, it's all right. Accommodations are an extra, they're essential. Equality and equity are two different things. Equality doesn't solve anything. It's giving us all the same thing. which is not what we've been fighting for. Equity is meeting our needs, and how we unlock the best, and it helps us unlock the potential to succeed and to show you what we can do, how we can be successful at work. The one thing I'm working for is for authentic representation in TV and film, real diverse stories about our lives, showing us not in the stereotypical inspirational story in that way. Just stories about our lives, how we live, how we love, how we struggle, how we navigate life on a day-to-day basis. But most importantly, that these roles are played by people with disabilities. I was diagnosed with autism at 4.5 years old. My autism will always be a part of me. I don't live a day without my diagnosis, but it isn't the only thing about me. There is so much more that makes up who I am. And even though I am an independent person, I am still a human being with my autism. And I'm always going to need support in some way, whether it's in life, with work. But the thing that support helps me be included, helps me get through everything, helps me do my work and have a voice. And the thing is that whether our voices are verbal or nonverbal, we still have a right to be heard. And that is how we unlock our potential and show you who we are. I want to wrap this up by saying being included is a way to show that I, along with millions of other people with disabilities in our country, are an integral and important part of our society. This is why diversity, equity, and inclusion are so important. And that is why I keep advocating for that. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kobe. So before we open it up to questions from the media, which, by the way, you can put your questions either in the chat or you can raise your hand by going to the react button at the bottom of your screen and raising your hand, and we can unmute you to ask your question. But before we go, I wanted to let everybody know that there is on Saturday, on the day of the anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, the 35th anniversary, a milestone, in Southern California, where many of us live, there is going to be a hearing at the Reagan Library by the Ways and Means Committee of the U.S. House of Representatives, where they are going to be touting how great the budget bill was, House Resolution HR 1. And that event is an opportunity for the community to attend and express on this anniversary day that we are challenging their characterization that this bill is good for America, that this bill actually undermines who we are as a nation. And so we're hoping that as folks are hearing our press conference, we'll be showing up at the Reagan Library in Simi Valley, California on Saturday morning at 9 a.m. to tell members of Congress directly that we will not stand for cuts to our health care and to our services and to disenfranchise people with disabilities. And we are going to fight back. So now I'd like to open up for questions. If any members of the media, feel free to put a question in the chat or to use the raise hand feature on Zoom. I will give you all a moment if anyone has a question. I know a lot of these press conferences, there aren't questions, so which is fine. All right, so with that, we're going to wrap up this press conference. I want to really thank all of the actors who joined us today to really draw attention to the critical issues of how people with disabilities rights are being torn away during this really important month of Disability Pride Month. And thank all the members of the press who came today. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you all soon.